From the KDLM studios in Detroit Lakes, it's Hodge Podge with Carol McCarthy, presented by Partnership for Health, and now airing on TV3.
Back in the studio with Detroit Lakes Vice Mayor, pinch hitter, Ron Zeman. Good morning.
Good morning, Carol.
Good morning, Vice Mayor Zeman. And lots of things, lots of projects in the works. Last night's meeting was lots of little nuggets of news coming out of last night's meeting, I would have to say.
Oh, that's right, Carol. And right off the bat, Bear Brink swore in a new police officer, Nicholas Erickson. He's our newest member for the police staff, and the city is budgeted for 17 officers, and with Nicholas coming on board last night, we're at the full 17 now.
Great,
so
yeah.
we're sad. They've been short some officers there, so this will help them out. Mm-hmm. And remember, we're 24 hours a day jobs, so you need staff to cover all the bases.
Right, and so he's been on training. He was in field training for about a month. I think his position or his hiring was approved at February's meeting. And then
correct.
Last night he was sworn in. So that's great. And also some of the other things that the council was updated on. There was a public hearing on the 5-year capital improvement plan, yep. Which is this time of year the council likes to go through all those plans and sets up for the projects this summer. And there's a lot of projects happening this summer that we're updating on. There's
a lot of projects in this entire 5-year plan. Right now is estimated to be around $42,708,000. So, the street department, that eats up a lot of the city's budget, but we need to have good streets and safe streets, and we try to get them done as fast as we can, and we have to put them on this 5-year plan to get them in. But for this year, for 2019, we're going to be doing West Avenue and Willow, and then we have Willow Street to Jackson to Washington, Randolph Road, Chris Street, County Road 54, a little bit of Highland Estates up there, and then we're going to do a Berquist subdivision phase 1 for a new housing area. So that's for 2019, but then every year on out, there's lots of projects planned.
Right, and in 2020, a big one, Westlake Drive.
Westlake Drive is going to be the big one, and those are huge, millions of dollar projects, and we're looking at working with the county on that and some Minnesota state aid dollars, and takes a lot of help to get all that paid for.
Right. So those are coming down the pipe here in 2019, going through that process of getting all the permits and bids and just moving that forward. We had an update from engineer John Pratt last night. Also, some of the other things going on in the city. We had an update on a new park that will begin construction hopefully this spring and summer.
Yes, that's correct. We're going to have it out. That's going to be called South Shore Park. It's a picnic shelter plan. We've got just preliminary plans last night, but it's going to be similar to what we have at Long Lake Park. We're going to have a place for people to come out and rent that building and have family reunions and so forth. And it's on the Marty Solomon, that newest addition he's putting in. And we're going to have not only the buildings there, but we're going to have things for the kids to play on and swings and all the stuff.
Ron, can you describe where it will be in relation to, we've got South Shore Drive, so it's the Lake Drive.
Go around South Shore, and about a block before you turn into Marty Solomon's expansion. Everybody knows where Marty Solomon
is that the Forest Lake?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Before you turn there, it's going to be on that first corner. And so it's going to be right on South Shore. Going to be pretty close to Bruce Imholt's house. You know where Bruce is.
Well, so that's the turn that you would head towards the field.
Yeah,
and there's a big field on one side, and then the park will be
and it's going to be a great park, a lot of planning, and like I said, it's they're looking at about $500,000.
Right, so that'll include a shelter. That's
they'll
incredible.
have shelters and everything, and maybe even looking at pickleball. Still in the planning. The park committee is working on that, but they kind of show some preliminaries, and those are some of the items we're talked about, which will probably, most of them will come to fruition on, but it'll be very, very nice.
Tennis courts, pickleball courts.
That's correct.
That's
cool.
And
we don't want to forget the north side too, because, the Boys and Girls Club are putting up their brand new building, and the park committee will be working with the Boys and Girls Club because there'll be a park up there. Probably won't have a building like they have, but they're going to have all the things for activities for the kids. Mm-hmm. And so both north side and south side will be getting some new areas for the kids to play.
All right.
They won't have to play in the street.
Okay, very good. So yeah, that's a good thing to talk about as we long for the spring and summer to come along. Also, some money towards trails in the community.
That's correct. We're trying to get this trail out to Frazee, and we came up with had to have some additional funding for the trail connection, and so the food and beverage tax dollars gave approximately $50,000 to help extend that trail. And hopefully we'll get there soon to Frazee, and we've been working on that for a long time.
Yes.
But we're getting closer.
Okay, and it is supposed to start construction, the Heartland Trail extension from Detroit Lakes to Acorn Lake. This year. So
Correct.
That'll be nice to get that segment done. Some of the other things that the City Council has been working on for a number of years is about to become reality. I'm talking about the Shoreland Ordinance, Shoreland Management Ordinance.
Yes, that's correct, Carol. This project, we've been working at that for 3 years. It's taken a lot of city staff time, a lot of volunteers, plus council people working with the DNR, working out new regulations to help keep our lakes safe. Everything's got to be approved, and pretty much the city got most items they wanted for our lake. There's a couple things, but when you negotiate, you're never going to get 100% of what you're asking for. But I think the city came out real well on this, and so that has to go in now for a final approval. It looks like everything's done now, but that's a big step.
Well, and I think, didn't this come about because of all the construction going on around the lake, namely with some of the hotels being put in, some of the houses, and it has to do with, lots of things to build on the shore and also kind of the wetland district as well, but a lot of impervious surface talk.
The impervious surfaces, parking, height of buildings, it just covered the gamut of things. Mm-hmm. And but it all relates back to keeping the lake clean, and that's what the big part of all this is. And we were keeping it clean, but we're just going the next step up.
Okay. All right. As we work, and some of the things, it's for new construction it will deal with, and some of the old construction will be grandfathered in. Is that what I understand? Okay. Ron Zeman, Vice Mayor of Detroit Lakes, in the studio with me this morning, talking about things going on in the city as the City Council held their meeting for the month of March. And before we go on, there is going to be a special meeting at the end of this month, or actually next week.
On Tuesday, and we have a number of items we just need to, we don't get enough time to be as a whole group to be there, so the entire city council will be as like one group to speak, and we're going to be talking about, building facilities, like we're looking at a public works building right now, talk more about the police station now that the voters approved, maybe some improvements over at the administrative building, and just some other general things that the council has to go over every year, and we just never have time during the council session. So this will give us probably 2 to 3 hours to work on some of that. And everybody's invited to come. It's next Tuesday at 4:00 right at City Hall.
All right. Very good. So that will be on the agenda. The police facility you mentioned, voters passed a referendum to finance a new police building, a structure. And I know that Kelsey Clem, the city administrator, was talking about he's kind of got to get his ducks in a row and get things set because the passage of what we need to do as a city has been done as far as voters go, but then now it's down at the legislature and it has to be approved by the legislature for the 50-cent sales tax.
Correct. And both Chief Todd and Kelsey went down here a week and a half ago and met with the legislatures. Everything's approved. The only thing is this is pending. We have to have a tax bill.
Right.
And so we're hoping that we get a tax bill because this will be on a tax bill to be approved. And so we're hoping that there will be a tax bill. There were a couple of years where Governor Dayton didn't have a tax bill, so nothing got done those years. So hopefully this will be in that tax bill. Last night we approved to go ahead, move forward with plans and request proposals from different architects and stuff to come back with some preliminary plans for us to look at.
And now some of the discussion that kind of started last night. I know Alderman Imholtz voiced his concern about building a building and building it so that we could always add on to it in the future if need be. building
Correct.
for the future.
He did bring that up. And like I said last night, that's all fine and dandy if we were starting out a brand new town today and hadn't had any buildings up. But we've got some buildings that are older than others. So we want to make sure that we get the maximum use out of all these buildings. And but the voters, they voted in November overwhelmingly to go ahead with the police department. And at the location that across from the community center there. And that's the plan that we're moving on because the voters did approve that. We went down to legislature with that plan. So it's kind of like trying to change plans in midstream. It's we can talk about it, but it's, the voters have spoken.
Right. And it's to finance about a $6.6 million building.
Correct, $6.7 million.
Right. Okay. All right. So that will be part of the special meeting agenda on Tuesday, the 19th. That meeting starts at 4 o'clock at City Council Chambers. Also on that agenda, you're going to have the second reading, of the ordinance, shoreland ordinance. In order for the DNR to improve that. But the second reading for the noise ordinance was given last night.
Yes, and we've been working, with the businesses. We've also been working with the homeowners, and we think we've come out with a plan to make most people happy on it. And we did some tweaking, and hopefully that this will work out. If it doesn't, we'll have to come back and make some changes.
Well, I think part of the change was adding a fee for enforcement to add a little bite to it with a monetary.
Well, we've always had the fees individually.
Right.
So like a place like maybe some businesses might do something just about every weekend. Mm-hmm. So they were saying, geez, we got to come down and get a new fee. So we came out with an annual fee from Memorial to Labor Day.
I was talking about the penalty fees.
Oh, the penalty fee. Yes, that's correct. Yes. If you violate this now, yes, come back and it's kind of negotiable. Well, now it's no more negotiable. It's down black and white. Mm-hmm. This is what's going to happen. You get the first one, you get a little fee. Second one, you get a bigger fee, and then the third one, you lose your liquor license.
You're out.
You're out. So it's going to be stronger. So the restaurants and the liquor establishments, they're going to have to wash their P's and Q's so that they don't violate this ordinance.
Okay, Ron Zeman, Vice Mayor for Detroit Lakes, in the studio with me this morning. Ron, we've got a few minutes left. Also, another that had a second reading, another ordinance update was for short-term rentals. The city of Detroit Lakes didn't have anything that dealt with what has become a rage of vacation rentals and B&B in town. And now the city does have an ordinance that also deals with that. You need a conditional use permit now if you have one of those. Correct.
And it's going to be subject to building inspectors like you will with a rental. And so I think it's good for everybody. It's good for the neighborhoods. They have protection like that for people watching over it, but it's also good for the people that come to visit our town and make sure they're in a good, safe environment on it.
Mm-hmm. So that is in the residential area, but if the building should happen to fall, if the house should be in a business district, there's still requirements, but not rules. A conditional use permit.
And they're going to be subject to the same rules of collecting lodging taxes and so forth on that.
All right.
And then, Carol, I should mention too that Fire Chief Flynn, he's asking for our help as residents to help clean out our fire hydrants. So we're going to ask everybody this Friday, Saturday, Sunday to get a neighborhood block party and locate your fire hydrant and dig it out if you can, because we don't know where they're at. We've got a map that says they're there, but if you had an emergency, police department, fire department get there, they can't find it, they got to have to dig. So if you can do that this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, get all your neighbors together, dig it out, clean it out 3 feet around the fire hydrant. That would be great. And then one other thing, we're having trouble with some frozen streets. Some people having frozen pipes. Check your water temperature. If it's at 38 degrees or colder, you better start running your tap water so that you don't have frozen pipes or frozen water in the house.
Right. So we're in the midst of this freeze and thaw pattern and a storm brewing. The plows have done a great job out there.
The street people have been unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're, believe it or not, we're still on budget.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I was surprised to hear that from Brad Green.
I know. Well, Brad was saying, too, the trucks are loaded with sand and, they're kind of waiting at the gates to see what happens with this latest storm. But
and he told me that the state's running out of salt and sand. It's been across statewide. It's just been unbelievable.
All right, but Detroit Lakes Forge is on. All right, so lots going on in the city as we wrap up our March meeting. Actually, a special meeting yet next week again at Detroit Lakes City Council Chambers at 4 o'clock on Tuesday to wrap up some more things, and we'll keep us posted in April and May as we head into the next season. Of course, we had the Water Carnival Admirals there last night, so it's always good to look forward to the summer months.
Correct, and we're going to have a special assessment role for that West Avenue, Willow Street at our next council meeting, April 9th at 5 o'clock. So if you live in that area, you're going to get an invite, but you want to be sure to be at that meeting to find out what this project really is probably going to cost you.
Okay.
We won't have the actual, but we can be pretty close to it.
All right, very good. Vice Mayor Ron Zeman, City of Detroit Lakes, thank you for standing in today, Vice Mayor Zeman.
Hey,
always a pleasure.
And everybody have a happy St. Patty's Day on Sunday.
You got your green on. All right. And that's going to wrap up Hodge Podge for today. Tomorrow we'll have folks in from Detroit Lakes Community and Cultural Center on Thursday's Hodge Podge. I'm Carol McCarthy, KDLM Detroit Lakes.